when you are an entrepreneur, don't let yourself get so sucked up 100% of the time into building your business that you forget to have a life. Because being an entrepreneur, once you get a little bit into the journey and you can build a little bit of routine or processes, make sure that you're getting out and enjoying the flexibility of being the owner.
Our guest today is a powerhouse business and tech attorney with 30 plus years of legal experience. As the founder of HTBiz Law, she offers clients the best of both worlds, a boutique law firm experience with expertise of a global firm. With a passion for empowering women and BIPOC entrepreneurs, she provides tailored solutions to overcome challenges faced by solo and small businesses. She's negotiated deals exceeding $200 million and authored publications on essential legal topics. Her mission is to provide accessible, non-threatening legal resources that empower businesses to safeguard their interests and thrive in the competitive landscape. Welcome to the show, Sharon Tasman.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here and share knowledge with your audience because, as you said, I really want to help solo, small businesses, women, and members of the BIPOC community understand that legal really is their best friend, and you don't have to be a rich corporation to be able to protect your business and your personal assets at the same time.
That's amazing. I don't think I've ever had a guest just as ready as you, just boom, mic drop moment right from the get-go. That's it. She's prepared. I could tell you're ready to rock and roll. I'm excited to have you here. I want everybody to know they can go to HTBizlaw.com for your website and then all your social media. And I know you're just about everywhere. You're on YouTube Shorts, Instagram. Did you say TikTok as well?
Facebook, TikTok. Yes.
Yeah.
And
She's got them all checked off, guys. So whatever platform you like to tune into, check out Sharon. She's there hanging out, right?
Yes. And basically just search for HTBiz Law everywhere.
Yeah. And we'll have that linked in the show notes so they don't have to spell it or remember to do that. Let's get right into it. So with over 30 years, as I mentioned in your bio there, of legal experience, and you founded HTBiz Law, what inspired you to start your own boutique law firm after working at these large law firms?
So I worked in one of the world's largest law firms for 15 years. And then I went to a big corporation, which was actually a client in the biotech space. And it's amazing training. And when I started, the big law firm was much smaller, but it grew from 400 attorneys to 2,500 attorneys and 47 offices. And the rates went up with it. So I was doing deals, that were 200 million, but even $1 billion at a time. And when you're doing those large deals, you end up being a strategic missile. You go in, you do the deal, you leave. And smaller businesses, which I had represented at the beginning, aren't able to afford those kind of rates when you're still at big law. And I wanted to be able to provide, just like you said, a boutique experience where I could take all of the training, all of the knowledge, but make it affordable to clients that had valuable missions. I do have still some like corporate clients, but they are research foundations or social utility kind of organizations that can afford me when it's small me, but not if I was still big law me. And that's why I started it, is to make a difference. And also, it is nice to be able to choose who my clients are and make sure their mission aligns with.
Yeah, amen to that. I've worked for some Fortune 100, 500 companies and had that experience of like a large company that's just, they're moving on at all cylinders at a high speed. But also the thing I notice is like there's this analogy I heard a few times that came up on Mic'd Up, but also on other shows I've listened to and even in books and things, is the analogy is these larger corporations that are financially sound and just massive, they're like a huge ship out on the ocean. And so if they need to turn or change or adapt, a lot of times they're very slow moving, but they're foundationally sound. I mean, that thing is going to be hard. It's a huge vessel. But yeah, it's a lot slower. So you're also, you've learned your experience there. You've got a wealth of knowledge. You've done, we're going to talk about the 200 million plus deals and things like that. But you're also able to help someone who's in a speedboat.
Right.
Right. And they're moving very quick. They can change their business tomorrow. They can rename their business and rebrand it and have a new Facebook page tomorrow afternoon. And you're helping those companies. And many times those companies are the ones that need your expertise. I know this because I started off as a solopreneur. They don't know, like, hey, am I an S-Corp, a C-Corp, DBA, you know what I mean?
LLC.
LLC. Right. So I was like, I know there's one more in there. It's like
LLC is
rattling
actually
off
my
social.
favorite for small businesses.
And we'll talk. Share why do you feel that?
So the reason is, if you are doing business under your own personal name, Mike, DBA, Mike's company, there is
Mhm.
no legal difference between you personally and you as a business. So if your business
Wow.
gets sued, all of your personal assets are at risk. An LLC is the easiest, fastest, and least administratively burdensome business that you can set up. In most states, the filing fee is $100 to $200. A couple states, it might be $300, but it's an online form that
Yeah.
takes 5-10 minutes to fill out. It's like 2 screens worth of information. And that can get you set up as an LLC. And that gives you the protection of being a business so that you're separating your personal assets, your house, your car, your investments from your company. Now, you do have to make sure that you operate as a company. You can't just use the LLC as your personal piggy bank. You want to have a business checking account, a business credit card, ideally an LLC operating agreement, and really run it like a business. If you do that, it's going to be much harder for a potential creditor to go after you personally. They might try, but if you
Sure.
can demonstrate that you've been running it as a business truly, then it's going to be much easier for you personally to be removed from any issues.
That's great advice. That is awesome. And I appreciate you sharing that because I got some wonky advice from an attorney and I think they meant well. And I'm not saying they were wrong even, but I think two things happened. I think I was over ambitious and I was a brand new entrepreneur. So when they were telling me about what kind of business I had, I think I was sharing projected what I was anticipating revenue would be. And it was like pie in the sky numbers because I just started and this is what I was making this in corporate, so I thought I could do this for myself. And obviously, I'm still working towards those numbers. And so when I shared that with him, he said I should be an S corporation. And I was just me, myself, and I. And he said there's tax benefits, but every CPA, and I know you're excited to answer this, but every CPA and even my accountant, like when he looks at everything, it's like I don't really understand why you're still an S corp. And I have a team now. I have a team. We're 4 people strong. And he's like, it still doesn't quite make sense for you. You're not at that like threshold where this is beneficial. Can you speak on that?
I can. So an S Corp really is effectively a tax election. You file as an LLC and then can elect a tax treatment of an S Corp.
Hmm.
When you do an S Corp, it doesn't make sense until you're having a stable, predictable income where you're paying yourself a stable, regular salary. Then you
Right.
get more of the tax benefits. But the reality,
It doesn't make sense like in the first 6 months of a
no,
business, you don't really have that. So for him to say that out of the gate was interesting. But again, I didn't sell him on the idea, but I told him what my vision was for the company. So he probably gave me projected, this is what I would do if that's the
I mean,
case, you know?
yeah, I mean, my opinion is, and my advice is, when you're starting a business, start as an LLC right away
Mm.
because it's going to give you the protection. And I understand when people start up their small business, the furthest thing from their mind is the legal stuff most of the time. They're just thinking, I've got to get the clients in, I've got to get the money in, I'll deal with the legal stuff later. But an LLC is so easy to do. You can even do it yourself. And the benefits are so huge that it's worth doing right away. As you grow, in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, you can always change corporate form later. The
Yeah.
key is better to do an LLC easy and quick now and go for the more complicated types of businesses later when you have the regular revenue and the team to justify it. Better than waiting. I'm like, oh, I'll just become a C Corp later. Be an LLC now.
That's awesome advice. Thank you for sharing that. I'm glad we got it out. That's why I love having interviews. Like you prepare for them, but you really don't know where they're going to go. And then sometimes it's the simple things that are most important for people to hear. And that's actually where my follow up is going. So, what are some simple, maybe things that for you it's so
Mhm.
everyday, like the back of your hand, but for a startup entrepreneur, they may not have that information. It could be a tip or topic, just a legal thing that you're saying, like, 100 out of 100 small businesses should know these maybe 2 or 3 things legally.
Okay, so beside setting up as an LLC, the
Yeah.
next absolute costs you nothing, do it every time, is make sure that you're putting a copyright notice on all of the materials that you create, websites, posts, reports, books, drawings. If you are in a services business, your tools, your tips, your techniques, that's what makes you you, that's what makes you valuable. And people don't think to protect their copyrights. Now, you become a copyright owner instantly when you create it, but by putting in that C in a circle, the year, and your business name, period, just that one little phrase,
Yeah.
you're putting the world on notice that you claim ownership of it. You have the ownership, but you're putting people on notice, and it prevents people from claiming they didn't know they couldn't steal your work. And if you find someone copying your work, by having that habit, you're going to be able to show that they were more willful, which can increase your damages that you would get back financially.
Interesting.
And it's free.
So I was going to say it's free. Is that something you do have to file, or literally like my company is Social Chameleon, and I know that I have the rights to that and all the legal paperwork to it. So I confidently put copyright on everything in the website every year. I go to the footer and I change it from 2022 to 2023.
Yes.
And have the little C there.
Yes.
But is that like, does someone need to file something if they're a brand new entrepreneur today and they're like, yeah, I want to copyright my name and my website? Do they just Google that C, copy it, and paste it into the site?
Okay. So one, on most digital, electronic data entry, if you put a left parentheses, a C, and a right parentheses, it will offer you the option of the C in a circle.
Cool.
I want to correct one thing. Your name and any logos are brand, and that's actually protected by trademark and service mark, not copyright. Copyright protects works of authorship, software, apps, algorithms, spreadsheets, macros and spreadsheets, reports, drawings, art, music. That's what's protected by copyright. In the United States and in most countries, you become the copyright owner instantly the moment you create the work. It protects works of authorship. You are the copyright owner immediately. You do not have to take any other steps. However, no one's going to know that you are unless you announce that you are. People make a big mistake on the internet all the time. They confuse publicly findable with, oh, I can do anything I want with it. So people think it's on the internet, it's free. Well, no, not really. Somebody usually owns it. So by putting the copyright notice on the footer of your documents, your website, you are letting the world know you are acknowledging your own ownership rights and putting them on notice that they can't use it without your permission. You do not have to take any other steps. However, if you have something larger, a book, a compilation of poetry, an entire, like a software app that you've written, you can take the additional step of filing for federal copyright registration. And that gives you some extra benefits. It only costs about $55 to file. It gives you extra benefits of the right to go to federal courts, which are better. You can get your attorney's fees back if someone steals your work and you sue them and win. And you get something called statutory damages. Statutory damages are literally written into the statute and range from $500 to $30,000 per copy. So anytime someone makes a copy of your song, of your podcast, each copy of each episode is its own claim. And each one of those could be up to $30,000, $35,000. They're always adjusting the rates.
Yeah.
If you have a copyright notice, if you have filed for copyright registration, you can get your damages tripled, because if you can show that their copying was intentional or willful, and by having the copyright notice, it's hard for copying to be anything other than intentional.
Right, the warning came up front. I remember that on, I don't know if I see it anymore with streaming or even, I'm sure it's on Blu-ray, but geez, I couldn't tell you the last time I even popped a Blu-ray in. Now everything is streaming. But remember, like,
the disclaimer,
you pop in a
the notice.
VHS and there's like a 12-second disclaimer there, $250,000 fine, right? And I know when I watch like the Yankees games and stuff, Michael K. every game, I don't even know if it's recorded or if he says it live, but he says like a 10-second disclaimer, all the rights to this, if you copy or reproduce this in any way, there's a fine behind it. So yeah, you come out and you say it, and then that way, if there is a copy of it, it's black and white and you can back yourself up. But my question with that is, obviously Mic'd Up is on YouTube. You mentioned you're on YouTube as well. And I use YouTube for education a lot. I'll tune in to other podcasts or educational content, how-tos. If I need to learn something, I'll typically go there first and then see if there's like a e-course or something. And why I bring that up is I know some of the most popular shows in the world, people just make like a duplicate, like Joe Rogan, for example. He has like JRE clips for Joe Rogan Experience clips. And I believe that's actually from him and his team. But then there's people who have like Joe Rogan, Mayhem. I'm just making this up. I don't know if that exists. And then they're like reposting his show and getting 1 million views because it's popular. How is that even allowed? I know YouTube like cracks down on stuff like that. What are your thoughts on how are they getting away with that?
Yes. Okay. So first of all, everyone who's listening, if you have podcast episodes or videos that you want to protect, if you look at my videos, at the end of every one of my videos, there is a disclaimer that pops up that has a copyright notice. You should put a copyright notice at the end of all your videos or even in your show note, in your notes on your YouTube or whatever social media caption. So you're letting people know because copying is rampant. By having the copyright notice, you're able to demonstrate if you wanted to pursue that about doing a takedown notice through the, whether it's YouTube or Instagram or TikTok, because you can show that you announced that it was copyrighted and you published first. So it's clearly yours.
I'm surprised that he doesn't do that unless he does and somehow they still
he
do
might,
it and they're risking it. Yeah.
But if someone is reposting the entire clip with all of his links, it may be in his interest to not object to the repost. Because
that's probably what it is. He's like, they're doing free advertising for my show.
If, however, what they were doing, what I've seen happen on TikTok, is people steal word for word your content and re-record it themselves. Or they take your article, put their name on it and post it. That's copyright infringement for sure.
Yeah.
And
black and white.
Black and white. And that I'm sure Joe Rogan would object to. But if somebody wants to link to my video and share it and say, oh my God, you've got to watch this video, it was great, I'm not going to object.
Yeah.
As long as they're giving me credit and they're not removing my copyright notice and it's still me saying it, I'm not going to object.
I guarantee he's got a team monitoring that. I mean, they're like, this one will keep up. The next one's derogatory and or maybe they're trying to monetize off of it. That'll get taken down.
Exactly. So there is a defense to copyright infringement called the fair use defense. If you're using an excerpt, it's usually not the entire work, an excerpt of a copyrighted work for news reporting, comment, criticism, or other educational non-commercial use that does not deprive the owner of revenue, then
podcasting too.
Then it can fall into a fair use defense. So if on this podcast, you and I talked about a book that was out there and I read 2 sentences because we were commenting on that topic, this is in effect like news reporting or criticism or commentary, that or parody like Weird Al Yankovic does. That's okay because you're not stealing the value of the original work from the copyright owner. And
that's really important. I want to say something about that because I'm a podcast producer. That's what Social Chameleon is. And we did a show called It Came from the 80s. We did their first 50 episodes. It was a 50-episode show. I think they kind of ran out of content to talk about in the 80s. But it's a great, interesting show that covers a lot of really cool stuff from the 80s, which is when I grew up. So we loved working on it. And a lot of times it was fun because we'd cut clips from Back to the Future or you name it, E.T. soundtrack, and we'd have the music play. But we were able to do it through fair use. I ended up spending a lot of time and research to make sure legally we could do what we did. I didn't know what fair use was beforehand, and that's what allowed me to do it. But I still, to this day, and I'd love you to talk about it because a lot of people that are listening either have a podcast or considering starting a podcast, and I think a lot of people don't know what you can and can't use, whether it's a theme song for your intro music and or is the thing that allows you to use it. Let me actually turn this into a question. Is the part of the clip, let's call it, if it's music or like you said, a book, does it have to be that you guys are like that we're reviewing it or talking about it, or can it be used anywhere within the episode?
So if there is a means to provide revenue to the copyright holder, for example, the Harry Fox agency, or places where you can lawfully license a music clip because you're going to use it as a ringtone, you're going to use it as your theme song, that isn't fair use. That's actually a use for which the owner could expect commercial payment, right? They get paid when their songs are played. You should not be using copyrighted music that belongs to somebody else. And I'm not using you, meaning you, Mike, but you, all the listeners. Yeah. If it is copyrighted song, a song by Madonna, Prince, any artist that you want to use for a theme song, your intro, your outro, you should not be doing it unless you're getting a license to use it. There is rights-free music available that you can use. For example, TikTok itself, if you're doing a TikTok video, they have free music that you can add, or Instagram, you know, that's okay music to use. But if you are using music that belongs to somebody else, the only purpose you should be using it for safely is if you're commenting or criticizing. So for example, when there are these recent copyright cases where one artist says, you stole my music as a backing track or some element of it in their song. If you wanted to discuss that case and play a little piece of artist one's piece and artist two's piece, and you have a guest on and you're talking about, well, are these the same? Are these not the same? That's fair use because you're talking about it from a comment, a criticism, a newsworthy perspective. But as your theme song, your intro, your outro, no, that's not fair use.
It's kind of like abusing it, essentially. Yeah, that's awesome. I'm glad that is one of the most important things that I've ever talked about in 200 plus episodes of Mic'd Up, because it is something I do every week. I mean, we're producing dozens of shows, and every time that someone comes to me and we're creating their intro, outro, and trailer, I'm finding license-free music that legally I have access to and then I have the rights to. Sometimes you can pay for them. So, you know, the artist wants a little bit, and they're usually very reasonable. And there's a ton of free stuff. I actually get a lot of free stuff on YouTube Music. If you go into YouTube, what is it, Studio, and then there's a music library. I'm just sharing this as like a free tip for everybody. There's a lot of music in there. Sometimes you'll have to, I think the word is attribution. You have to
give credit.
Give credit where it's due. And some people say no attribution is required and you don't have to do it, but you can use their song. And what's neat is, like my theme music for this is I got that off of YouTube. And every time I post a video, it actually recognizes it. And on the bottom of my YouTube videos, it says the artist. I forget his name, Patrick P. I forget his last name, but it gives him credit, which is really great. Like, I want that, you know, like I'm not trying to use it hidden. Like,
well, and you would get in trouble if you did, because you had the right to
correct.
use it for free as long as you did that, right? So when you're the copyright owner, you own all of the rights except that which you give away. So someone could say, I will let you use this for free as long as you do X. Or they could say, I'll let you use it only for money. Or you may use it one time, or you may use it forever. Those are the rights that belong to the copyright owner for them to keep or allow somebody else to share.
Very good. That's awesome stuff.
Yeah, I avoid that by, I have pretty much no music in any of my videos. I just don't. It's easier that way.
Yeah, and you know what? I know on Instagram, I think that is even beneficial, because if you put a song in, a lot of times you cannot monetize it and or, you know, just run an ad on it. Like, it just won't even, it's grayed out because the song's there and they don't want any kind of legal, even if there's attribution or whatever, I think they just don't want to deal with it. So they won't even allow you to boost your and or run an ad on it. So it's, if you're looking to monetize it, either make sure you're adding your own music. I'm just telling all the creators out there that you have attribution to and there's no problem, and it's not something you're adding kind of through the Instagram and likely the TikTok or YouTube apps, because they're going to pick up on it. This is really good stuff. I had so much more kind of about your career and things to ask you about, but I'm glad we went here, because I think that our audience tuning in, the Mic'd Up audience, again, a lot of startup entrepreneurs, young entrepreneurs really of all age, but a lot of them are content creators, because look, in business, content is king. And like, if you don't have content, you're not getting yourself out there, you're not branding your business, then what are you really doing in 2023? You essentially don't exist, right? So everybody's doing, whether it's them, and I know that sounds brash, but it's like, you really have to be promoting yourself. Otherwise, how do people find out? And whether that's yourself personally, or you have a team, a marketing team, somebody doing that for you, it needs to be happening. And these are really important things. We're not just like, oh yeah, do the attribution if you wanted to. Like, this is super important stuff. You're helping people out. So LLC was your first recommendation. Fair use for content creators. Oh, I'm sorry. Second was copyright.
Yeah, putting your copyright notice. But I have one thing related to that, which is all of these things that you've created. And this is know your value. That's the next, what's the next tip? It's know your value and make sure you're capturing it. So particularly if you're in the services, but any services, websites, business consultant, coach, any of those, you have created things 100%, I'm sure, that you use from client to client to client. But people forget to take into account the value of those things. They just price themselves based on the services they're about to perform. But if you have created an algorithm bank, a code bank, you've got frameworks and templates that enable you to be better than your competitors or do things in a different way, and your client is getting the benefit of that, make sure that you are pricing your services taking into account the value of all the things that you own. And in order to do that, you have to know what you own. So take the time to, I call it like a digital asset audit, or like a self-assessment.
Yeah.
Figure
It's
out
like an inventory of
exactly. Figure out all of those things that you are using and ask yourself, if I had to create these from scratch for the next client project, what would I charge? I think most people, and honestly, it's very common among women, we undercharge because we're conditioned to be nice. Society expects us to be nice. If we're too aggressive, we're labeled the B word. So we don't necessarily price ourselves the way we should, or we wait till we're 90% qualified to apply for the project when men, typically apply if they're 50 or 60% qualified. It's a gap. And that's one of the things I want people to realize is you don't have to wait and apply. The worst thing that will happen is someone will say no. You can't go into business if you don't have a thick skin or learn to develop one really fast.
That is a guaranteed true statement right there. Yeah.
And related to that, and this would be tip number 4, you must have, if you're in a services business of any kind, your own contract that you provide services under. Because I've done this for 30 years. I guarantee you that no services agreement drafted by a client ever was in favor of the person providing the services. And there can be subtle but really significant differences that in fact could bar you from being able to ever use your own background works ever again. So have your own contract.
It's a CYA, right?
You have to CYA. And the thing is, clients always want to own everything. They're like, I must own everything you do. Well, no, you need to be able to use everything I've done for you. If you sign a contract that says, I assign to the client all the things I've done for them, any of the pre-existing things that we've just talked about, your reports, your drawings, your algorithms, your code banks, if you assign the new work and it includes the old work, you've given up your old work forever. And technically, you can't use it again because you have nothing left to use, because assign when it comes to law means giving up 100% of your rights.
It's like passing on the ownership of it unwillingly.
Well, willingly, unknowingly. Right. Exactly.
That's the word I was looking for.
Which is why a client can own some things, but not your pre-existing work or your background stuff. You always have to make sure you are protecting the thing that enables you to keep doing business in the future.
Yeah, this is so good. This is a fly in the wall conversation that really every startup entrepreneur and content creator really, I mean, this is huge. I'm excited to promote this because and share it. I share everything on social media, but this is probably one I'm going to go to some personal friends and say like, hey, not a self promo here. Check Sharon out. She knows what she's talking about. I just kind of get out of the way while she's dropping some really good advice. I mean, this is like someone could spend 2 weeks reading a book, chapter a day and get this information. You just are giving it to everybody in a half hour. What we do need to do real quick is give our sponsors some love.
Of course.
And make sure that we're doing that contract, obligation. But we have great sponsors, Social Chameleon and Navigator Bookkeeping, which is actually my bookkeeping services. That's why I'm so proud to give them some love. So let's do that real quick and we'll be right back with Sharon.
Podcasting is a great way to engage with your audience and stay consistently relevant. The only problem is you don't have the time or desire to produce your own show. You simply want it done for you, and that's where Social Chameleon comes in. All you need to do is press record and upload the files. We'll handle the rest. From planning, production, post-production, distribution, and digital marketing, we have you covered. We realize that times are tough and funds are tight. And Social Chameleon believes in building supportive business relationships. By clicking on the link in this promo, we'll provide you 7 free podcasting tips to get started, as well as a free 30-minute online consultation. This is the perfect opportunity for entrepreneurs, keynote speakers, industry experts, influencers, and anybody who has a personal brand. With Social Chameleon, we help you build a brand that is out of this world. We're ready and waiting. So what are you waiting for? Click on the link to get started today. Hey guys, it's Mike. I'd like to give a proper shout out to Navigator Bookkeeping. Look, for a long time, I ran my business without really understanding the full financial picture. I used my gut and my bank account balance to make decisions, which led to some poor choices and constant stress over my business's finances. I knew something needed to change. At the beginning of 2021, I made a decision that helped pave a more clear path for my business. I started working with Navigator Bookkeeping. Since then, my bookkeeping has been handled for me. I now understand the full financial story of my business, making important financial decisions much easier now, and it helps me plan for where my business is going. I highly recommend giving Navigator Bookkeeping an opportunity to help your business. Check them out at navigatingyourbooks.com. Again, that's navigatingyourbooks.com. It's time to know the full financial story of your business.
All right, we're back in action with Sharon Tasman. Remember, you can connect with her on social media. I have her website and all of her social clickable in the show notes. Right before the break, we're hitting on some really great advice. We kind of had the 4 things so far. Let's see if I was paying attention. Start up. Use an LLC first until you grow into something, maybe an S-Corp later on, once it makes sense, legally makes sense. And then copyright all your work so people don't steal it. You mentioned you can use fair use. You can use things that you just put attribution for. Number 3, help me out, was 3.
3, we talked about knowing what you own.
Knowing what
so
you
you can
own
get
and
paid
your
what you're
value.
worth.
Yeah, and getting paid with what you're worth. And then right before the break, we hit 4.
Which is our client agreements, your services agreements. Make sure they're yours.
CYA.
Well,
CYA is how I summarize it.
Do you ever play poker?
Yeah, it's so important.
Do you ever play poker?
I'm not a great player, so I limit myself. But I know how to play.
You know how whoever puts the cards on the table first loses? When it comes to contracts, whoever puts the form of the contract on the table first wins. Because you know what's in it. And especially if you're a small or solo business, no matter what type of contract, if there's a contract that you use often in your business, if you have your own template that's drafted for your business, I joke that half the time I literally am writing myself out of a job. My goal when I create templates for clients is that they can use them without me. That, build it once, use it 100 times. I train people on how to use their own client agreement. They only have to change the little business terms. The legal stuff stays the same. So they're not incurring costs each time they get something from the other side. They don't have to sign something they don't know what it means. They don't have to pay a lawyer to always be reviewing what the other side has sent them. If you've got your own client or services agreement or consulting agreement or web design agreement, if it's your template, you know what's in it. and it's been drafted for your business to protect your particular needs. So
Yeah.
have your own contract.
That's
It'll
awesome.
save you money.
That's what we do have, and it's kind of, we just change out the start date, the client name, as long as it's the same kind of, everything that's bullet pointed in it is the same, we can really just change it out. But it is something that you got me thinking that it's been a while since I had the right eyes on it. So I would love to work with you
Absolutely.
to have you review it. Is that something you do?
I do.
You
So
review?
for small businesses, we do offer a lower rate than for major corporations. We have some small business packages, and people can also do hourly engagements with us as well.
Awesome. Yeah. So you're making yourself accessible. You can serve the bigger companies, the big guys out there, but also someone who's a smaller LLC. They're just getting started
Yeah.
and taking your advice,
And
they need your help.
Yeah, and we set it up so that for the small business packages, they're flat fee. So you know exactly what you're paying upfront, and you know exactly
Mhm.
what's included. And they all include training on whatever templates or documents we create for you.
Yeah. This is awesome. I think a lot of times, I know this personally speaking, legal is something that it's like going to the dentist. It's a necessity. Nobody loves it. They don't wake up jumping out of bed. I think there are some people out there that actually claim they like going to the dentist, but we have to see
Not
if they're
me.
AI or if they're actual humans. But it's the same kind of thing. They know they need it. They're going to have to sit with someone. But it's an industry. Look, I used to sell insurance, and that always had the stigma behind it. Then, oh, here comes the insurance guy. And it's like, I can hang and talk, and I don't have to be that guy you think I am, because I'm not that person. And the same thing with you. You are the most fun, like easy to talk to, educated person, but you're not that stigma of this, like, oh, she's all buttoned up and she's going to be like dry to talk to. Like, you have a personality. So what are some of the other misconceptions that small business owners might have? They're maybe afraid to have these conversations because of it.
Well, I think the first one is they think they can't afford it, which isn't true. Or they think that legal is only for big corporations, or they think that they don't need it yet. And yes, there are some things, not everything, there are some things we can fix later and go back and try to undo, but there's some things we just can't. And for example, having your own templates, whether if you use a lot of contractors, having your own contractor template, having a client agreement, 100% guaranteed, it is cheaper to do it upfront than later. And I get it. When you're a small business, you want to bring the money in as quickly as possible. It's just about doing the deals. Very often you sign whatever's put in front of you. And I had been a lawyer, right? I'd been a lawyer for 20 years before I started my own practice. And even I, in the first year of having my own practice, there was that in the back of my head, oh God, do I have to take clients I don't want to do? Do I have to take clients I don't like or that don't line up with my mission? Now, I still only work with clients in certain areas. I've been doing this long enough. I know what I know. We do business law, tech law, and life sciences and nothing else. Don't do real estate. Don't do tax. Don't do divorce. Don't do malpractice. We don't do that. Because you have to do what you're good at, which is how we can do it faster and can do things like fixed fee because we know how long it's going to take. I know how long it's going to take. So don't be afraid of lawyers. And that's really what I'm trying to help small businesses and solos understand, is that at the beginning, contracts actually are your best friend. If you've got your services agreement as a template, you walk out of that client pitch, whether it's an in-person pitch, a Zoom pitch, an email pitch, you get the work. You can flip that contract to them in an hour, in 2 hours. You're going to look super professional. And businesses understand the difference between a well-drafted contract and just the free template you downloaded off the internet, because they know what's a real contract. But being able to turn something in quickly, where you've described clearly what your services are in a way that protects you and makes sure the client understands, you probably can end up charging more money. You're certainly not going to lose money. And that's really the key.
And the other thing in business, and something I learned in corporate and also running my own company now for over a handful of years, is people like to do business with people that make it easy to do business with them. And that might sound like, oh, duh. But really, there's so many. How many times have you, like, you needed a service or something, or you're willing to work with someone, and then they're like, oh, I'll put this together. And then like 4 days later or sometimes longer,
4 weeks later,
they kind of they give you like this clunky thing. It's not even, you can't even e-sign it. You got to print like a 12-page document and sign it, and then you go to like your local place that has a fax machine still and send it to them. You're like, why are we making this so damn hard? I one of the companies I work for, I'm not going to name them, but I did work for an insurance company. They used to do that with their life insurance policies that were like 100-page documents. I used to have to fax them to our office that was in Boston. I'm in Buffalo, just to get someone to look at it, and then like, days later, everything was fine. Like, until I had it all taken care of, I didn't even know if that agreement was going to go through in that contract.
Mhm.
So make it easy to do business with you is my advice to anyone who's listening right now. And the way you can do that is with those templates. You're changing out business names. You're changing out maybe dates and agreement dates and things like that, but you're not re-establishing or building the wheel every single time. Yeah, really good stuff. This has been awesome. One thing I want to ask you about, talking about business contracts and deals, is you've managed individual transactions. I know that have exceeded 200 million. We talked about that earlier. Can you share some insights into the complexities of negotiating a high-value contract like that and some of the key factors that can contribute to their success?
So I actually probably need to update my profile because it's really been individual contracts and deals up to $1 billion, and I'm probably somewhere north of $6 billion total. But in some ways, when you're at that 50 million, 100 million level, there are certain things that always come up. What's the limit of liability for each party? What are the performance guarantees? And can the parties agree on exactly what services are being provided in a way that each party understands? Because no matter what size deal you have, small deal, big deal, vague kills every time. And the biggest source of disagreements, and this, if you're a solo or small business, the biggest source of disagreement that you are likely to have with a potential client is if they don't understand the specific services that they're getting. And that does not change no matter how big the deal is. So people need to describe their services clearly. I worked for some of the world's largest, the big four consulting firms for decades. And the project descriptions sometimes could be 40 pages when you're dealing with, a $50 million deal, because they want no questions. It's not,
right.
I'll use a smaller example. It's not, I will draft your website. It's, I will draft a website that contains one homepage, 5 main pages in the navigation bar. Each one will have a maximum of 4 subpages. It won't be optimized for e-commerce. It will be optimized for SEO. We will devote 3 hours a month to providing your SEO services. We will include your headers, your footers, and all of that information, provided, however, that you send it to us, and our date for delivery is going to be calculated from the date you send us the materials we need. It's
like you're seeing inside my brain right now, because that is the kind of agreement you need to have, especially if you're creating things on a repetitious, we have like a recurring business model here, because podcasts are episodic. So people are recording content, getting it to us, and we're taking care of it. And, someone might have a Wednesday episode, like I had a bunch of shows that came out today that we produced. And sometimes I try to sneak them in to you on like a Monday or Tuesday night, and it's like, they're not seeing the 48 hours that we're putting into each one, so it doesn't even mathematically make sense to do that. So I've learned this a long time ago. Now it's actually in our contracts that there's a turnaround time and expectations, because the people aren't trying to take advantage of you typically. Most clients are not, what's the word I'm looking for?
Evil.
Evil narcissists, or intentionally screwing you over on a Tuesday night when you're with your family. I don't think that that's how they operate, but they certainly will operate that way if you train them to, by doing stuff, which I've done. I'm raising my hand here. I make the mistakes of being the guy that's like over and above service, like nobody's going to match my level of service. But then it also puts you in the spot of like, now they think I can, respond to this email at 1 a.m. on a Friday night, which I've done because I do it. So you have to, those contracts are like, hey, this is the normal framework. That was a one-off thing I had to take care of for you in that one situation. Remember, this is the deliverables and expectations, and it's not just me here. We got a whole team that's operating. So that's really good stuff. This is a a really strong interview for some, I don't want to call it basic advice, because basic means like everybody knows it already and is boring. Like, this is really strong foundational advice for
I like that word,
entrepreneurs.
foundational. And that's
Foundational.
what it is. I have a roadmap that I offer for free if people are interested, that sets out sort of the 6 must-haves, and I do webinars here and there for
Awesome.
people as well. But
Are those linked on your website? Where
the
can we find
the
it?
roadmap is linked. My Securing Your Brilliance, a hands-on workbook to finding all of your assets, is linked on my website. My webinar, I'm actually in the middle of re-recording it. I do a 10 tips to legally protect and grow your services business. I'm actually in the middle of re-recording that one, but it will reappear. But yes, all
Awesome.
those are available under resources that we offer, because people always say teach the what and the why, but not the how. The problem is
Yeah.
I really want to make a difference. That's why, with HTBiz Law over the last 4 years, I've really been focusing on smaller businesses, solo women, members of the BIPOC community, because I genuinely want to help. And sometimes I forget that I actually have to not help so much that people think they never need to hire me or someone like
Yeah.
me. And what I will say is, I've seen the things that are out there. 1, AI cannot draft a good contract. I know, I've asked the right questions. I'm a lawyer. I've tried. What comes back is surprisingly bad. 2, the free things really aren't necessarily right, because a client contract drafted from the perspective of a client, and this is true of any client, versus when drafted from the perspective of the person providing the services, the first page may be the same, but they're not. They're really not. And if you're not a lawyer, you don't know which is the right one at the end of the day. But yes, my problem is sometimes I help a little too much. But no,
Well,
I want to help. So the
it
podcast I love.
enables a little bit. Yeah, it enables. What I'm thinking of is a template is a template. That's what it is. It's not the end product. It's a freaking template. Like, if you're building a house and somebody gives you a head start, they talk about the word foundation. They build the foundation, which you need for a home, and they build, the 4 walls and whatever. I'm just making it real simple. And even have the roof on this thing. That doesn't mean that you're done. Like, you're going to decorate. You're going to put a kitchen table in there, a dining room,
Plumbing.
a refrigerator, plumbing. Like, stuff comes that you have to put in some effort. So an entrepreneur right now who's like, "Ooh, I'll just buy the legal plan that gives me the templates." Like, I recommend that you do that, but also work with a professional. Make sure that your business is now the plumbing, the everything, the refrigerator, the kitchen table of your deal. So now you're actually protecting yourself properly and not generically, because generically things will fall through the cracks, and you're going to be 2 years from now like, why the hell didn't I spend $50 extra on that? And that's, a lot of times it's not, and we talked about that, the misconceptions that it is always tedious, expensive. It's not really all that true, right? You were saying an LLC in some states is less than $300,
Right, and that's
right?
Well, that's the filing fee with the state. But the truth is, most people can do it themselves. I mean, you certainly can open your own business checking, your own business credit card. You should have an LLC operating agreement, which is setting up the rules of the road for your business. It gives you an extra layer of protection that typically most people can't do themselves. But even if you can't hire the lawyer, set up the LLC, open the checking account, get your business credit card, and don't run those accounts like a piggy bank. And that already puts you 5 steps ahead.
It's true. I made a lot of mistakes early on. Thankfully, I was able to learn from them and not make them a second or third time. But yeah, this stuff I wish I knew back in 2017 when I started. The best thing I had going for me was I was just willing to go fast, hard, long hours. Nobody was going to tell me I can't do it. Like, if you told me I couldn't do it, I would work, if it was even possible, even harder. If you told me I couldn't do it. So I had all that going for me, but that doesn't necessarily talk about strategy or proper things. You build things in the right order. You can't go out of order. It's like a cake. Like, if you have all the ingredients to how to bake a cake and you do them totally out of order, you are definitely not going to end up with a cake that you're going to see on,
Martha
one of those
Stewart.
reality TV shows. Yeah, Martha Stewart cake. So why would you do that with your business? Just assume. I'm actually doing a whole podcast episode on that analogy. It's coming soon. But yeah, you wouldn't do that for a cake that you're just going to eat. Why would you do that for the livelihood of your business and your family? But unfortunately, myself included, that's how I was operating in the early days.
And what I will say to people who may be listening to this and are starting to feel bad about themselves because I didn't do things in the right order, know that you are not alone. It is so common that people put the business part first and the legal part or the foundation second. Like I said, it can be fixed. It's better if you do it in the right order, but some things can be fixed, but don't feel like, oh, I should have known. I will tell you when it comes to things like copyright or contracts or having the word assign versus license, businesses that are way bigger than yours and really should have known better often make the same mistakes. So don't feel bad. And that's what I want people to understand is law done right is your friend. And it's not designed to make you feel bad.
That is why I wanted you here first and foremost, was to educate and inspire, but this is designed to encourage as well. And so everything I just said, I hope everybody realized was from a place of like, I'm like your brother, your friend, helping you out. Like, don't make the same mistakes I did. And I want Sharon on the show so she can tell you properly, because I'm not a legal consultant and or a lawyer. I don't play one on TV either. So I'm not the person to really give it. I'm just the facilitator of the conversation. And so you've really been awesome on this interview. This has been so much fun. I'm sure I'll have you on again because this was a lot of startup advice, but there's also like, okay, well, now I've had my company for X amount of years and I'm really growing, and now we're in our 25th employee. Now we got some bigger fish to fry, right? So
I'd be happy to be back anytime.
Yeah, I'll have you on again. We didn't get too much into your story, which we can always do that on a 2.0 conversation. But one thing I do like to get is inside somebody's day, because your examples, like actions speak louder than words. So for you, when you wake up and you're executing on your day, your schedule, and also this can be not just business, but your family life, who you are as a human being. What are some daily non-negotiables that you make sure that you hit on every day?
So when I am not a lawyer, I'm a competitive ballroom dancer. So I, at least a couple times a week, I did find balance. There was a period of time for 2 or 3 years where I admittedly danced more than I was a lawyer. But I'd been a lawyer for 25 years before I did this, so it was my version of a sabbatical. At least twice a week, I practice with my partner for 2 hours, but we do it at 7:30 in the morning when the studio's empty. We get in, practice, and I'm back at my desk by 9:30 or 10.
That's incredible.
So,
and you're energized too because your body's in motion already.
And the days I'm not practicing, the first thing I do when I get up is go downstairs and get on the treadmill or weightlift or both.
Yeah.
Because you have to have a routine for your health. I try to eat healthy. I cook most of my food. I don't ever go to fast food. So those are things the first thing I do in the morning is I take care of myself, and I do not look at my email until I've gotten up, hit the treadmill, taken a shower, had breakfast, then I'll look at my email. Because if you don't give yourself a little bit of time, your day just spins out of control. And
you're like a slave. You're a slave to everything and everyone that needs your attention. And you're the last person to get your own attention, which is really way backwards. And again, I'm raising my hand because guess what? This is what I do. I wake up and I look at my phone first. And I even think, put it down, go have breakfast. I need to start getting a walk in my routine and stuff like you're talking about. Just get the body working and moving.
Yeah.
And then you can come back to everything because it's still going to be there when you do your routine, your workout.
And I would say another non-negotiable for me is, it's more aspirational at the moment than non-negotiable because I have let it slip. I set a timer. So once an hour, I get up and jump around for about 5 minutes because you got to get the blood flowing. And, I have a very desk-bound kind of job. So I have a walking pad in my office. It's out of view of the camera. So I try to get up and, just walk on the treadmill for 3 minutes or dance around the room to one song. And when it's nicer weather, I try to get out at the end of the day for a walk. My fiance and I will go for a walk. We try to go every evening. It's just a way to unwind, catch up.
Mm-hmm.
You have to make time for yourself and fun.
That's a great thing because when you go for a walk, you're tapped out of technology, and then that's where you can connect. And you can do that personally. I think that's some of the best connecting I've ever done is when it's just me. I separate myself from tech. If I have my phone in my pocket, like for an emergency, I'll put it on airplane mode. That way, when I'm on the walk, the only thing I'm thinking about is what downloads into my brain from, I say, the universe, or, things come to you, ideas come to you. Like as a musician, I also play the drums, and it's been a little while since I've
My
written
fiance
original
plays the
music.
drums.
Awesome. Yeah. But the thing is, like, what allows the creative songs that we wrote as a band in the past was like, we just got together and it just kind of came to us because we were there and present, and we weren't just like on technology and like, hey, let's write a song. Like it just came to us. We're hanging out. We're in the moment. And magic happens when you're tapped into that and not chasing the latest email or YouTube video, or how many times you just get trapped into IG Reels. Like I've spent 10 minutes before, after I'm done eating dinner, I'm like, why am I still sitting here looking at IG Reels? This is ridiculous.
Okay, you're lucky if it's only 10 minutes.
Yeah. And full transparency, the reason I'll speak for myself, and it sounds like you're in the same, you agree with me on this because you mentioned it. This is a transparent conversation. I like that you even said, I try to get that walk in, or I try to do this, because we're not perfect. We're not machines. Not every day you're going to go for your walk. Not every day am I going to wake up and intentionally get that big glass of water, because I know basically while you're sleeping, you're losing all that and you're dehydrated. So there's like these little key things. I talk about gratitude every episode. Wake up with gratitude, go to bed with gratitude. I don't do that every day because there's days I forget, or I'm overworked and I literally just pass out.
You hit the pillow and you're out. Yeah.
I'm out. There's not even a thought process of gratitude because unfortunately my brain just needed to go right to sleep. So I'm saying all that because anyone who's listening right now, there's maybe some people on social media that look like they have it all figured out, or they're telling you that they got the latest and greatest and they're selling you on something. Nobody has it all figured out. Nobody is perfect. And if they're telling you that, I'd actually say run in the opposite direction, because nobody is 100% perfect. We're all human. And the things that we share on the show are just some great actionable things that they can take. But you didn't know all this without 30 years of doing it. I didn't know this without 3 years of interviewing 200 people so far to learn from them and go, ooh, that's awesome. I didn't think about that. Or I can do that myself. And, I forgot to do that. It's been months since I did that. I'm going to bring that back into my routine. So I just want to make sure we're coming with the right heart behind everything we just said. I do have one more question,
Sure.
but you can also share anything else that we didn't talk about that you're excited to get on the show. This question's really designed to share a little bit more about what you have for your vision and where you're going forward. And I know a lot of this stuff you're already doing, which is exciting. But imagine this. So you're the author and protagonist in your own life story, and you get to write the ending, and God willing, you continue to live a long and prosperous, beautiful life. You're looking back on it and reflecting, and you get to define your legacy. What would that be?
That I'm a good man in a storm. I know I'm a woman, but the expression, I'm a good man in a storm. I'm a loyal friend. I tried hard to make a difference. I gave great parties. And I couldn't imagine life without dancing or travel or music.
It's funny that before you said it, I felt that you're going to go there with this, the final thought. Exclamation point. I love that. That is a great answer. And I can tell that the reason that you didn't have to really think much on it is that this is something that you're actively, presently considering in the moment. And so I encourage anybody who's listening, and thank you for being with us all the way to the end here, to do the same thing. Don't wait until you're all the way at the end. We don't know when our end is anyways. To start to think about legacy. Like it's already in your, it's not way out there. It's like it was right here for you to grab that, right?
Well, it is, and it's not a legacy. So when I was younger, I had cancer when I was 17. So you quickly learn about mortality. And in some ways, maybe I coped with the changes of the pandemic a little bit better, because I always knew that you never know how much time you have for the life the way it is, which is why I had that couple-year period. And actually, it was the 3 years leading up to the pandemic where I danced more than I was a lawyer, because it's something I'd always wanted to do. I'd been dancing on and off for decades. I had a new partner who was amazing, and my body was letting me do this extraordinary thing that was like beyond my wildest dreams. I went to the national championships, like beyond your wildest
That's
dreams.
incredible.
Right?
Yeah.
When the first number, and I'll admit, is a 5, and you get to go to the national championships, it's like, oh my God. So you never know how much time you have. And that's one of the things that also, when you are an entrepreneur, don't let yourself get so sucked up 100% of the time into building your business that you forget to have a life. Because being an entrepreneur, once you get a little bit into the journey and you can build a little bit of routine or processes, make sure that you're getting out and enjoying the flexibility of being the owner. Because the way life is now, have laptop, will travel. Right? So I negotiated a contract for a client from the balcony of a cruise ship. And you were talking about, on a walk, it's a great place to get inspired. For me, I can sit, look at water, and the ideas just flow. So
True. Yeah.
Don't wait.
That's awesome. That is really important because, look, I've been a solopreneur and now have a team, but really for a handful plus now since 2017. And the whole idea was I was escaping, I was a store manager for a retail company. I was doing well. And then previous to that, I mentioned I sold insurance and was doing that to really provide for my family. And I was married and I have a beautiful daughter that I was supporting. And once I got divorced in 2017, I reevaluated and was like, I can really do anything I want. So I became an entrepreneur and did things in kind of technology, but more so like, I'm a creator. I'm a creative person since I was a little kid. So I wanted to do things, run around with a camera. And then I figured out how I can turn that into business. And podcasting was something I didn't even really know much about. And it found me. And I share all that to say, I'm doing all this cool stuff and it's fun and I enjoy it and I love working with clients. But I also don't spend as much time, admittingly, that I thought I was going to be like, yeah, just, I could do this on a Friday night or this. And a lot of times I'm still a little bit of a slave to my own thing I built. My company runs me more than I
forcibly carve out the time. And I get it. I've been doing this a long time. You have to force yourself to carve out the time. I actually thought I'm getting married in November or remarried. And I'm like, yeah,
awesome.
I'm going to go away for 3 weeks. I probably need to bring a laptop. And a friend of mine was like, you're going to bring a laptop on your honeymoon?
Get out of here.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, that's like not a bad thing to, that's.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to spit that out because it's like, this is a great conversation, just a reminder for myself. And I want everybody who's listening to this to reflect on that. And if you feel like you're in that mode, you're definitely not alone. Most people get into that kind of trap of the business runs you. Like, who the hell's the owner? The business is owning you, really. So it's just a great reminder. And I shared that to be transparent, but also that it doesn't have to be that way. So it will be that way if you don't intentionally schedule the things and build. You know how we talked about the agreement, where you have to have this signed contract agreement and it has to be properly written so you're protecting all aspects and things that can happen? Well, why not make an agreement with yourself that you're going to have this free time? And at 8 o'clock on certain nights, you are only from 8 until you go to bed with your family. If you have young children, man, they're only going to be, like, my daughter's 8 and it flew by. Like, reading her bedtime stories, I look forward to it because I know it's not going to be there for much longer, right? So, just you got to make sure you're scheduling time for yourself, with your family, right? Really good, awesome bookend for the conversation. Anything else you'd like to share before we head out?
I think we've covered a lot of ground today, and I don't want to make people go, oh my God, my brain hurts.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to have you back on an incredible comeback story, overcoming cancer. And I love to hear that you're thriving and doing well, health and business and that. But we can talk about that when you come back on. And there's going to be a lot of people who can relate, whether it's family, friends, personally. I'd love to get a little bit more into your personal story.
Absolutely.
Sharon Tasman, grateful for you. Normally I have my mug that says be great and be grateful. I don't have it on me right now. I do have my Be Kind shirt, and it's just a reminder that I don't care if you have $1 billion in your bank account or if you have $1 in your bank account. The thing that you can do that is free is be kind, and you can be kind to everybody. Doesn't matter who it is. They can even be a jerk. You can still be kind to that person. So it's my reminder, be kind. And then I do have the BGBG on my hat. So there's be great and be grateful. And I am grateful for you, Sharon. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you. And I'm grateful that you had me on the show. It's been a great time. I really appreciate it.